Page 49, Snowflake Rag. A style of music called ragtime music. It's like jazz, swing, blues, classical, whatever. There are a lot of different kinds of music. Well, genre of music, if you will. Ragtime is another. Deals with a lot of syncopation, a lot of playing notes when you don't expect to, or not playing notes when you do, a lot of tied notes and so forth. On page 48, introducing you to a chromatic scale. I don't actually teach a chromatic scale like I do the other scales. A chromatic scale, you're simply using all the notes, white and black. That's what it is. It goes up or down chromatically. Chromatically is half steps. A chromatic scale is like a circle. Where's the starting point of a circle? Well, there is no starting point because it's a circle. A chromatic scale, you don't really have a starting point because it uses all the notes. It can start and end on any note at any time. They're starting here on an E, here on page 48, the E, and that's fine. We can start on any note. The E is fine. And generally with the fingering, now there's different fingerings for this, but learn this fingering first, and then you can alter it. Is the third finger is going to play the black keys, and either one or two fingers are going to play the white keys. And the reason for having two fingers do it is because we got two white keys with no black key in between, so we need both fingers for those. Otherwise, the thumb's going to play it. So it's here, 2, then 3. Now thumb's going to do it. And it's thumb and third finger. It's just thumb until you get to these, and then the second finger's got to help out. Takes a little bit of getting used to. I've been doing it forever, so it's not so bad. That's the idea. Left hand's exactly the same way. They're starting out on an E up here. I'm going to come down here because it's comfortable for me. And the third finger on the black keys. And then we use 1 and 2 for these. Otherwise, it's 1 and 3. Start on any note, whatever. Generally in the music, they'll use sharps when going up and flats when coming down. Not always, but generally you'll see that in case you're wondering. And Snowflake Rag at the beginning, you get these sharps here. It's 1, 3, 1, 3. That's your standard fingering for chromatic scale. And then going on, you're continuing that. Now I will mention that when you get chromatic passages in pieces of music, the fingering you use for it depends on the situation. It may or may not be this fingering. You may or may not start on a thumb or a third finger or whatever. Sometimes we use fourth fingers, sometimes we use fifth fingers on this. It just depends on the situation. For instance, here, this fingering is fine for this. Here. But if I wasn't going to keep going, I could do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could get all of those within one hand position. And I would. But since I'm going on up, then I'll go ahead and do that. And then here, and that way, because it puts me in position for what's coming. So I have to consider the situation in the piece at the time. We'll talk about that as we go through the pieces and this comes up. We'll point these things out. This fingering is good for this piece. 4/4 time, no sharps or flats except the accidentals, and we have this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Right there. 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3. Actually, for the first note on the second line, I'd use second finger. You're here, just use second finger. You don't need thumb on that again because you're going to use thumb here. And then lift up, and it's 1. And then here, and that's just tied. Again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. See, we would expect to hear this type thing, but instead they do that's syncopation. It throws it off. Last line, second measure, again, it's chromatic scale. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Then on page 50, you're coming up here again. Same thing, an octave higher. So let's go down, third line down. You're up here, 1 and 2 and 3. Here, and then you got to rest to come all the way down here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and here, if you don't want to put a thumb here, you can do second finger and 3, 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and whichever. It depends on how big your hands are and how fat your fingers are. This fingering is fine. You do that pattern for a while, and then over on page 51 you go back to the original. And then the last line on page 51, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 1 and rest in, like so. Left hand, keep the left hand kind of soft because it's all in the right hand. Now here at the beginning, the left hand is playing the same as the right hand. We're just crossing over, that's fine. Rest. And then you come up. Broken chords. See that chord, that 5/7 chord? This is in G major, or C major, did I mention this? There's 4 notes in that 5/7 chord. But we don't always use all the notes all the time. So here we're doing this note and then this note. So we're sort of using all the notes, but not at the same tier. I'm just rotating that here. Over on page 50, third line down, you're here. And then second measure, 1 and then just half or whole notes, playing legato is fine. Third fingering is fine, blah, blah, blah. And then over on page 51 is what we've had before. Last line, or the third line down, last measure on 51, page 51. You're here. Second finger on the E, because if you had to keep going, the thumb would play the F, is the reason. And then the last line, second measure is 1 and 2. And then a C. Make sure you can get each hand okay by itself and then go put them together. At the beginning, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 1, rest, 4. Page 50, you're doing the same thing, but the right hand went up an octave. Let's go down to the third line, last measure. You're here. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then over on 51, you're back to what you were doing originally. Let's go down to the third line. You're here. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Here. Speed isn't important. Accuracy is important. You go as slow as you got to go. You can go a lot slower than I did. That's fine. And you go back and add the articulation. You have accents and staccatos. It's at the beginning there on page 49, third measure. You're here, accent, and then staccatos. Short staccatos. That's accented. And then here you got staccato in the left hand, but legato in the right. Good luck. to be very soft, very light. You're just kind of bouncing along. It's the right hand that gets all the goodies. So you're lifting up in the right hand between each slur, otherwise it's legato. So you get over to page 50, third line down, you're here. Accent, accent, and then here, accent that first. This is typical with syncopation. You'll accent the note that's off. Rhythm-wise, whatever it is, you'll tend to accent it, and that's okay. That the accents here, they're telling you to do it. So we want to hear them. And then at the end, accent, and then we go back to what we were doing with the original. And then you get down to the third line. There's no staccato here, nothing. Hold that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then here. 1 and 2. No staccato there. Hold it out here, and then accent. Both hands. All right. Then you go back and add the dynamics. Starts out moderately loud here. You'll have to decide what that is. It's not loud. It's just sort of loud. Right? Now you're loud. This is both hands. Accent. Now you're moderately loud in the right hand. The left hand is soft. Come up to a loud, just the right hand. Keep the left hand soft, and then back to moderately loud. Crescendo here. Left hand get a little louder. Now at the top of page 50 though, right, all of a sudden now you're soft, or sort of soft, moderately soft. Soft, you know. That means the left hand has to be very soft. Now, you're only going up to about a moderately loud there. Then come back down to moderately soft. Now you're going to go back up to moderately loud again. Those are accented. Now you're loud in the right hand. The left hand is just moderately loud to moderately soft. Keep the left hand out of the way. And at the end, the bottom of the page, a half note is accented. And now you're like you were at the beginning, moderately loud in the right hand. You get the dynamics, I hope, the idea with them. Speed-wise, they give you metronome marking. Generally, I mean, most ragtime music will move, but it doesn't have to. You can have slow ragtime too. And this is just let it go along. Over on page 50, they've added pedal. And this is to add contrast. We like contrast in music. Keep that in mind. Yes, it's been bouncing along kind of nicely at the top of page 50. You're still bouncing along. But when we get to the new, see the double bar lines in the third line over, that's a new section. Well, we're going to have some contrast here. This is going to be all legato, all connected here. So you're going to use legato pedal or lagging pedal. Play the notes first and then the pedal. And when you change the pedal, you do it after you play the notes. So the pedal lags behind the notes. So down on the third line, last measure, it's here. It's play the first notes in the next page, because we want to hear that staccato in the left hand. So it's, then you don't pedal again to the last chord at the bottom. You can pedal that, and you can pedal with the chord there, and then lift it up with the hands at the end of 2 beats. And that's really all we're using the pedal for. Don't use the pedal on this other stuff, because we want to hear this connection. We want to hear that. Now, if you're performing this for somebody you don't have it memorized, you got to be able to make that page turn without messing up the beat. The beat goes on. You get somebody to turn the page for you. You memorize page 49 if you have to. You don't have to worry about it. Or you got to figure out how you can get the page turned, because the hands are busy. So what do? Well, my suggestion here would be on the last measure on page 49 here. Rather than holding that down a full 3 counts, just play one beat, and you got 3 beats to try and get the page turned with your right hand. As your left hand plays, you turn the page with your right hand. It's the best I can come up with. You could, if you want, here on the next to the last measure there, here, rather than a whole note, just play it as a quarter note. And as the right hand is playing this, try and turn the page with the left hand, but you got to have the last measure memorized if you do that, because you got it. It's up to you on how you do it. Practice the page turn if you have to, so you can make sure, figure it out ahead of time, so you can do it without messing up the beat. Ideally, you just memorize the piece. You don't have to worry about it. I'd like to play it with you very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to do dynamics. I'm going to do page 49. Then we're going to stop. I'm going to turn the page. I'm going to count us in again, and then we'll do pages 50 and 51. Keep in mind we're not performing this, so I don't care if I mess up the beat here. I'm going to stop and turn the page and do it that way. So I'll give us 4 counts. So let's play this together slowly. 1, 2, ready and go. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Rest. 2 and. Stop and turn the page. 1, 2, ready and go. And. Rest. 4 and. Rest, rest. 3 and 4 and. 3 and 4 and 1.